Today, we're manifesting a podcast. Stay tuned.
Hi everyone, I'm Michele DeLuca and this is my friend Nancy Proulx. Nancy is an intuitive consultant. I'm a journalist and a passionate researcher in things of human potential, meaning I am so certain we are so much more than we think we are. Our podcast is called The Power Portal, and we believe that if you use your power with compassion and kindness, you can impact not only your own life, but the world itself. So how does that sound? Does that pretty much sum up what we're here to talk about?
Yeah, and every week we just get a little bit of a download of what we want to discuss. I find for myself, I think it's amazing how once I put it out there to say, oh, we're going to discuss this, things in my life start to move and flow, and ideas start to pop up, and reflections. So this week we thought we would talk about the law of attraction. And first of all, I thought we would begin with what we both view the law of attraction is, and maybe how we've used it in our life.
That is a great place to start, because some people think the law of attraction means I want $1 million, I want $1 million, I want $1 million, and then they don't get the $1 million and they go, what the heck, that doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Then they move on to something else because they're disappointed by the results.
Right.
I have a whole nother idea how it works in my life, but I would like to begin with you because it was your idea to talk about the law of attraction for this podcast.
So originally, when I was introduced to the law of attraction, I thought it was just affirmations.
Yes, me too.
Okay.
That's how it came into my life.
And positive affirmations, which is a great starting point.
For example, I'm healthy. I am well.
Mm-hmm.
I have all the money I want, and I work at a job I love, even if you don't.
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah. My life is full of abundance.
Yes, my life
Yeah,
is full of abundance.
you could be as specific or as broad. And I almost think that if you were more broad, you might even attract more into your life.
Yes. So that's how I think we both came to the law of attraction.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Okay.
Yeah. So then I realized through some of Joe Dispenza's work that the brain is electrical. So the brain sends out the thought. Okay?
That makes sense.
I want abundance. Or I want money. I want to win the lottery. I want a new job, and this is what I want. And we did all the vision boards and everything, right?
Vision boards, of course.
But what brings it back to us is the magnetic frequency of the heart, feeling.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to need to say more about that, because I can hear some people going like, oh, here we go again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, you have to look at, how much do you receive? Do you allow the ability to receive in your life? Do you receive a compliment well? Okay. Do you receive maybe somebody paying for your dinner? And do you receive it well and think, oh, no, I got to pay them back? Or, it's that whole idea
I'm not a really good receiver.
Receiving. And it's not about even judging ourselves. It's just about that awareness of saying, well, I'm gonna learn how to receive, because it's just the reciprocal of giving and receiving. It's really the same energy, because it flows back and forth, right?
I love to give because it makes me feel so wonderful. I to anyone and anything in any way that I can, I feel empowered by the act of giving. I am a really bad receiver. I tell my children, don't buy me anything. You don't have to buy me anything. Give me a card. You don't even have to give me a card. Just come and have dinner with me. I don't receive compliments well. They make me uncomfortable, and I, in general, am a much better giver than a receiver. So let's go from there. What do you think?
First of all, just the awareness, right, of that. And when I look at that, is it you have to look and go into what's behind that. Some people won't receive because then they feel like they owe somebody. Some people don't think they're worthy of receiving, anything.
Interesting.
So I'm just trying to think of some different blocks that would be, lodged in us, any limiting beliefs. A lot of, I can only be a nurturer. I
wonder. In my case, maybe it's a simple control issue that I haven't quite looked at yet. Being the one who gives instead of receiving, and this is actually a new thought for me today. Is if I open more to receiving, will I then open more to the law of attraction and the things that I would like to summon into my life?
Right. So, you just want to go into the pain of it. Go into the pain of why does it feel uncomfortable to receive. Remember, we've done a lot of this work where you have to go through it in order to come out the other side and really go deep and recognize, oh, this is where I feel the resistance in my body. This is where that limiting belief is held.
I'm feeling the resistance right now. That's so interesting. We talk a lot in this podcast about going into your body, going into your heart, feeling what your body feels, because as Nancy says, your body will never lie. And that's based on her, largely to begin with, on your work as an equestrian and your work with horses and your spiritual work with horses eventually, which you now use as a program to heal people, particularly vets struggling with PTSD, but anyone, people, horses can teach leadership. A lot of the work a lot of the work that you do with horses helps a human become more empowered. And a lot of that is based on listening to the body.
Right, correct. I just had an example that I remember working with a client who was a therapist. And she came to work with the horse, and she had a hard time, she could Reiki the horse or do some energy work on the horse. And she was very comfortable with that. But the receiving back from the horse, she was very, very uncomfortable about, to realize that the horse actually wanted to be with her, that the horse was attracted to her energy, that healing energy. And that actually made her a little uncomfortable. And for her, it was a level of control, that I can control telling people what they need to do, but to be in the mode of maybe the client being as powerful as the therapist in some areas, right?
Of course,
because the horse was as powerful as the therapist, if not more clear, right, in that moment.
Yes. And
to receive that back.
Wow.
Yeah. So
have you struggled with that? Just quick aside, have you struggled with that in your work, using horses as a partner in healing? Have you struggled with the horse being more in tune than you? I mean, ever? Does that feel familiar when she brought that up when you were counseling her? Well,
yes, because I've had to look at my own issues around receiving and control. We look at, even we were just discussing about giving up my role as a equine facilitated coach and moving more into working with just people. What came up for me is that the horses have been my passion since I was like 8-9 years old. And to let that passion go is extremely scary. So I can look at myself and say, oh my God, this is definitely control, because I do not trust that the universe is going to bring back something even more fulfilling, even more passionate. I mean, because I just can't imagine what could be more fulfilling than my experience I've had with the horses and everything that they have done with me. And I look at that and I said, I'm closing the door. I'm asking for more.
We talked about this before we turned the camera on, and it made me feel something in my body about giving up dreams that aren't coming. And again, this bodes well for this conversation about the law of attraction, which is sometimes you have to give up what you feel passionate about, as Nancy told me before we turned the camera on, to get the next thing that you'll feel passionate about. And I was like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
There are things that I want in my life, books I want to write and movies I want to make, and sometimes the process flows and sometimes it stops cold. So to give up the idea that I might do any of that to do something else was terrifying when you put it that way right before we started talking about this. So proceed about how this all applies to the power of attraction.
Well, I think we have to let control go as far as surrendering to, if we really believe in a higher power, that surrendering part of us and our limited view actually can get in the way. I think I wrote this down. I thought this was brilliant. So your choices write your physical script, and your soul writes the script for your evolution. So when we give up that the choices aren't enough, some of the choices we're making they're not going to get us where we need to go, because the soul is writing a much deeper script for us.
The soul has a bigger and better idea.
Yes.
And it might involve something you're not really pleased about or fond of. And yet the teaching that results from that incident or that gift from the soul will help you evolve into a better, stronger, more powerful version of yourself, I think. What do you think?
I wouldn't put fear behind it.
I would. My fear?
Yeah, I would just say, oh my God, I need to dream a bigger dream. And I need to get my hands off the wheel. And when we want to manifest something, we need to be in that space. When we get into that space of being where you feel and you trust and you know you're connected to divine flow, you don't question. You don't go down to your lower 3 chakras of survival. You don't question it. You know.
I think we've all had that experience where something occurs in our life. When I was invited to go to Russia with my friend Molly Anderson, who had gone 12 times and had a community of friends there, I leaped at the chance, and everyone around me was going, you want to go to Russia? And I went, and without a doubt that I belonged on that trip, and it was life-changing. I have mentioned before, the Russians embraced us like dear friends, like relatives, and fed us beyond reason, and I'll never forget my trip to Russia. It was incredible, and it makes me love the Russian people, and it helps me to understand that we are all the same. Okay, so that's one. Let me just bring you to my example of what you just said. And I know I've told you this before, but one day I was in my bedroom. It was early in the morning. I was reading in bed, and I heard Oprah and Carolyn Mays talking in my office, as loud as if they were actual humans sitting in my office. Carolyn, as you know, or you may know, is Nancy's teacher from way back. You started your intuitive career training in a very challenging 4-year program. In any event, I've read all of Carolyn's books, but I would never expect her and Oprah to show up in my office. So I got up and I went into my office, and my computer was closed. This has never happened before or since, but when I opened it, it opened to a podcast of Oprah and Carolyn talking about how Carolyn said specifically, if you're chasing the wrong dream, you're going to cause yourself pain.
Right.
So she recommended in that podcast, and you might want to enjoy listening to it. You might want to go listen to it. She recommended that you give up control, that you give up expectations for the day that follows, that basically you do what Nancy just said, which is to allow the universe to unfold to the longings of your soul, to the direction of your soul.
Yeah. So, so you just, I think that the first part of it, when we talk about the electrical part, about sending out what we want, the more difficult part is the magnetic part, clearing that space to receive and to receive fully. The veil moves aside, what you want shows up.
And when you say magnetic, is is it less scientific and more spiritual magnetism?
No, it's the scientifically when they did research on through the Heart Math Institute.
Okay.
And that is about dropping the mind to the heart and to the soul. When they measure the frequency, the electricity, the frequency that comes out of the brain is much less in amplitude than what comes out of. I hope I'm saying this right. What comes out
amplitude.
of
That makes perfect
what
sense
comes
because
out
we are
of,
energy.
Yeah, what comes the energy of the heart is like 60 times more powerful than that of the brain, and also the guts. We've talked about another really strong sensing apparatus of the body.
Those are really powerful words, and I will put a link to Dr. Joe Dispenza's work in the YouTube information, as well as the Heart Math Institute, both of them powerful organizations. Joe Dispenza is a teacher and a science-based, a teacher and a science-based instructor of human empowerment and evolution. And the Heart Math Institute is a long-time organization providing research into how connecting with our heart can make us more powerful.
Right.
I recommend checking out both those links.
Yeah, and I believe, I'm not sure if we have de-evolved over the years, but because, originally, we were connected to the body brain. That's how we survived.